Welcome to the Stony Lake Canal. Today we'll be discussing the ecosystem and all of its operations that make the channel unique. The Stony Lake Canal connects Stony Lake and Lake Michigan. It is a mix of deciduous and coniferous forest, containing both pine trees and broadleaf trees. It also contains the freshwater ecosystem of the channel itself. Both biotic and abiotic factors interact to make this channel unique. Some of the abiotic factors include rocks, the water, the air, clouds, and the weather and climate of this ecosystem. There is an abundance of water due to the canal, which is suitable for aquatic life. The weather this time of year is in the low to mid 70s with partial cloud coverage. The climate of this ecosystem consists of humid summers in the mid 80s, spring and fall temps in the 40s to 60s with moderate rainfall, and colder winters in the 20s with moderate snowfall. The organisms that live in this ecosystem have adapted to the weather and climate. Some migrate when it gets cold and come back when it's warm, such as many of the avis species. Some hibernate during the winter, such as anura or frogs. The organisms use the water as a source to find food, drink, and in some cases build shelter. The rocks as well can be used as shelter for smaller organisms. There is plenty of sunlight, so producers can get the energy they need. For our observation, we took kayaks to view the entire canal. To present to you all of what we found, we will work our way through food webs and up the tropic level of the food pyramid, separately ending with decomposers and moving on to ecological relationships. The first level of all ecosystems consists of producers. There are many of our state trees here, the Pinus stropas, commonly known as the white pine. Other producers include the Acer saccharum, also known as the sugar maple, Betula papyrifera, the paper birch, Pinus banksiana, the jack pine, Morus alba, the mulberry tree, Solidago juncea, the early goldenrod, grasses, and many, many more. These plants had to adapt to the ecosystem in order to survive. One adaptation that we found interesting was the roots on a white pine. Many of them grew above ground, and that was to gain access to water and minerals. Another plant adaptation was the Persicaria amphibia, also known as the water smartweed. It grows in the water. In order to adapt to that, the roots cannot take in too much water, so the adaptation would be the intake of the water in the roots, opposed to that of the white pine. A final adaptation that we observed is that of the goldenrod. It has slightly serrated leaves, which may be used as a defense mechanism against potential consumers. Now moving up a trophic level, there are primary consumers. Some primary consumers here consist of Bombyx mori, also known as the silkworm. They eat mulberry trees and in turn cover them in a web-like silk. Up next is the Odocoleus virginianus, the white-tailed deer. They eat twigs, leaves, and grasses. There are also the Cyrannus caryolnensis, the eastern gray squirrels. We found a melanistic eastern gray squirrel. It was completely black. There are Tomius stritus, also known as eastern chipmunks. Along with these, there are many types of insects and larvae. The next step after primary consumers comes secondary consumers. Some of the secondary consumers in this ecosystem are Triocoppus palliatus, the palliated woodpecker, which eat insects that live in trees. The Tringa glariola, the wood sandpiper, is an organism that we got to observe very closely. It eats insect and small crustaceans. The Garridae, also known as water striders, which eat larvae on the surface of the water. And the Dolometus triton, the six-spotted fishing spire that also eats insects. The highest level of consumers are the tertiary consumers. They do not have a predator above them. There are three in this ecosystem. These three are the Butyrhides veracinix, the green heron, which preys on insects and small fish, Micropterus samboides, the largemouth bats, which eat smaller fish, and Ardea herodias, the great blue heron, that eats small fish, insects, and smaller animals. Like the plants, animals also have to adapt to survive in this ecosystem. One adaptation would be the beak of the wood sandpiper. It is long and thin to easily forage through shallow waters for crustaceans. Another adaptation would be the six-spotted fishing spider. It has coloring to easily blend into its surroundings, making it difficult for predator and prey to see it. A final adaptation example is the green heron. It has both a long neck and a sturdy beak to easily catch aquatic prey such as small fish. While not on the energy pyramid, all organisms end up getting decomposed. There are many decomposers in this ecosystem. A few of them are the Latopar also known as the chicken of the woods, lichen, and the Russula emetica, emetic russula, a type of red mushroom. Interactions between organisms in an ecosystem are very broad. All organisms will interact in one way or another. There are different types of relationships that define how they interact. These different types of relationships are the predator-prey relationship, mutualistic, commensalistic, and parasitic. The predator-prey relationship consists of one organism eating another. 3 examples of this relationship at Stony Lake Canal would be the relationship between a 6-spotted fishing spider and insects. The spider in this situation would be the predator and the insects the prey. Another example is the sandpiper and crustaceans. The sandpiper in this situation is preying on the crustaceans. And a final example is the green heron and the water strider, where the green heron preys on the striders. A mutualistic relationship consists of both organisms benefiting from the interaction. The eastern gray squirrel and the oak tree have a mutualistic relationship because the squirrel takes the acorns and buries them, leaving the ones it forgets to dig up able to grow into more oak trees, and the acorns the squirrel eats benefits the squirrel as a food source. The commensalistic relationship consists of one organism benefiting while the other one neither benefits nor is harmed. The blue heron in the maple tree is an excellent example. The heron is able to make a nest on the maple, which benefits the heron, but does not harm the maple. But this also does not help it. The final relationship type is parasitic. In this interaction, one organism benefits while the other is harmed. The best example of this relationship in this ecosystem is a relationship between silkworms and the mulberry trees. The silkworm feeds off the mulberry tree and wraps it in silk, which in turn helps the silkworm grow and reproduce while slowly killing the mulberry tree. Both biotic and abiotic factors work together to make the Stony Lake Canal a balanced and thriving ecosystem. It was a beautiful day to explore and observe this site. Please enjoy a few more pictures that we took while observing the nature of this ecosystem. Thank you.